4875, good night now.
Sundance 518, taxi across runway 24 left. Contact ground point 65 when off.
February the 1st, 1991. Los Angeles International Airport, LAX.
246 heading 270, contact Los Angeles departure. Thank you, USAir 1493. You're cleared to land 24 left.
Cleared to land 24 left, 1493.
Traveling at 240 kilometers per hour, USAir Flight 1493 descends towards runway 24 left.
What the hell?
I pointed to the aircraft and yelled, USAir is crashing. The aircraft was fully engulfed in flames.
But the full scope of this tragedy is far greater than anyone can imagine.
Mayday, Mayday.
At one of the busiest airports in the world, a Boeing 737 has just exploded in flames upon landing.
I think the thought process in the tower was, it was 1991, it was one of the first nights of the first Gulf War. And I think the thing that was foremost in our mind was maybe it was a bomb that went off on the aircraft.
As firefighters bring the blaze under control, rescuers begin searching for survivors.
About 5 minutes after the incident occurred, we got a call from an emergency vehicle.
Amid the wreckage, they have made an alarming discovery. One that forces everyone involved to re-examine every detail of the last 15 minutes. USAir Flight 1493 cruises towards Los Angeles International Airport. LAX is a central hub for international travelers.
Just confirm the visual approach for USAir 1493 is 24 left.
That's correct, USAir 1493.
For the approach, Captain Colin Shaw is managing radio communications. First Officer David Kelly is at the controls. With 89 passengers on board, the flight isn't quite full.
Well, I'd been on a business trip to Columbus, Ohio. I went from the business meetings to Columbus Airport and got on a USAir flight that was nonstop to Los Angeles. I planned a lot of good things and good times for that weekend.
USAir 1493. Expedite your descent through 4000 as much as practical, if you would. There will be traffic pass above you on the south side.
As the Boeing 737 nears Los Angeles, the approach controller tells the pilots to make a quick descent. They will need to stay clear of a flight passing above them.
Okay, I'll expedite through 4. USAir 1493.
Landing at LAX can be a challenge for pilots. The airspace around the airport is often thick with traffic. On average, a plane arrives or departs every 50 seconds. Each of its 4 runways handles both takeoffs and landings. Taxiways intersect the runways at dozens of locations. The airport can be a maze of stops and starts for pilots following instructions issued by controllers.
737, turn right 010, intercept 4A.
You got the left side in sight?
Yeah.
We're out of 4.
USAir 1493. Thanks for your help. Contact Los Angeles Tower 133.9. Good night.
Good night.
Gear down?
All right. You gave 3 bells?
Yes, I did.
Perched 12 stories above the ground, tower controllers have a hawk's eye view of traffic coming and going from the airport.
It was a busy night. There was a lot of airplanes. We had numerous arrivals and departures during that time of the night, so it was a typical day.
Elliot Brann is the clearance delivery controller.
The primary duties of the clearance delivery controller is issuing the routes of flight and the flight plans to the pilots as they come out of the computer. A flight strip is printed out, so you get a piece of paper with the call sign, type aircraft, route of flight. I issue the clearance to the pilot, and then I pass the strips, the flight information, to the next controller.
Brann shares flight information with 4 other controllers. 2 ground controllers who handle planes moving between the gates and the runways, and 2 local controllers who are responsible for planes taking off and landing. Tonight, local controller Robin Washer is overseeing the 2 north runways at LAX, 24 left and 24 right. She uses the flight strips to keep track of flights departing and arriving.
USAir 23 taxiing to position and hold runway 24 left.
Position and hold 24 left. USAir 23.
246, you still holding short of 47?
46 affirmative.
All right, you're next. SkyWest 569, taxi up and hold short of runway 24 left.
Roger, hold short.
$28.75. Good night now.
USAir Flight 1493 is about 13 kilometers from LAX. The pilots configure their plane for landing.
Speed brakes. Still working for a living.
All right. Flaps are going 1.
Flaps.
Now the pilots radio the LAX tower for landing instructions.
USAir 1493, inside rolling.
Wings 5006. Ground, tower.
Robin Washer is busy with other planes. She doesn't respond to their radio call.
SkyWest 569, taxi to position, hold runway 24 left. Traffic will cross downfield.
Okay, 24 left.
Position and hold, SkyWest 569.
Wings west 5006, tower.
At 2166, connect approach 124.5.
30. Green lights to 10.
Gear. Flaps. Landing clearance remains.
Just 6 kilometers from the airport, the USAir jet still doesn't have the okay to land.
Sundance 518, taxi across runway 24 left. Contact ground point 65 when you're off the runway. Good night.
Captain Shaw contacts the tower for the 2nd time in less than a minute. He needs Washer's permission to land.
USAir 1493 for the left side. 24 left.
246, heading 270, contact Los Angeles departure. Good night.
But she's still focused on other planes.
Out of 1,000 feet.
Flight 1493 is now 1 minute from the runway. It's what pilots call short final.
Sometimes due to other priorities that take place, an aircraft might not get a landing clearance until short final.
Thank you, USAir 1493, you're cleared to land. 24 left.
Cleared to land, 24 left, 1493.
Looks real good.
You're coming out of 500.
What the hell? The USAir 737 has barely touched down. It erupts in flames and crashes through Los Angeles International Airport.
I saw USAir touch down, and as he got about third way down the runway at taxiway 45, the aircraft was fully engulfed in flames. The supervisor ran past me to pick up the crash phone and alert the emergency vehicles to respond.
Aboard the flight, sheer terror.
There was a tremendous crunching sensation, and there was this extraordinary shower of sparks that shot by my window.
Good God.
Rosa Reynoso is a plainclothes officer with the airport police.
We see the aircraft engulfed in fire. My partner and I were probably about 500 yards from it.
Alert 33, runway 24 out. Affirmative, alert 33.
The initial moments were very scary, very chaotic. I remember just thinking to myself, oh God, please get some more people out here. Get me fire, get me officers, get me somebody, because this is not good.
In the tower, there's no time to dwell on what's happened. Other aircraft are still coming in to land. Controllers must direct them to safety.
Wings west 5212.
Winds 240 at 8. You are cleared to land. Runway 24 right. Use caution. We just had an aircraft go off the runway in flames.
The cabin of Flight 1493 is filling with toxic smoke. Some passengers rush to a door at the rear of the plane.
I probably got 7 or 8 rows down the aisle, and then I encountered a cluster of passengers standing in the aisle, not moving. I thought to myself, there must be an opening in the front of the plane that allowed for this tremendous quantity of smoke to roll into the plane so quickly. And so I stumbled forward to the cockpit area, and there was tremendous fire on both sides of the plane. I said to myself, my gosh, there's no way you're going to get out of this airplane, David. You're trapped.
Outside, some have escaped the plane. Rosa Reynoso is the first emergency responder to arrive at the scene.
The fire was intense. It was very, very hot. I mean, almost singeing us.
She needs to act fast to help passengers away from the burning wreckage.
The passengers are trying to escape the plane from the emergency exit doors. However, the fire had engulfed the doors, so some of the people that were fine jumped out of the plane and into the fire.
More emergency personnel arrive within minutes.
Most passengers are jumping out of that door.
Some people were on fire. Some of them were scratched, cut up. Some of them had broken legs. It was pretty traumatic. And I think you just start operating on knowing that you have to do the right thing and try and save these people.
David Koch is still inside.
I suddenly saw a crack of light, and my God, it was a miracle. The crack opened up, and I suddenly realized that I had opened the galley door.
But now he faces another hurdle. He can't even see the ground through the fire and smoke.
And I said to myself, what the hell, and jumped out. I landed on the ground and then started crawling on my hands and knees away from the airplane. I had a great sense of guilt. Why did I not go back into the airplane and say, follow me? And I think if I'd gone back into the cabin, I might have passed out and fallen on the floor and died. And that's how I've come to terms with the fact that I got out but didn't help anybody else out.
As the search for survivors continues, firefighters make a stunning find.
This is Rescue 1. We've got a propeller down here in the wreckage.
The discovery of a propeller has horrifying implications.
There's 2 planes down here.
As soon as we found out that information, we started actively looking to see what aircraft, if any, were missing. So we started looking at the flight strips that were already departed, and then we looked at the ones that were still pending. And then we called the departure control, radar controller, to find out which ones they've talked to in the last 5-6 minutes.
What about SkyWest 5569?
No, we haven't heard from them.
SkyWest 569, taxiing to position hold, runway 24 left.
Okay, 24 left position.
And hold, SkyWest 569.
Staff can account for all of the aircraft except for SkyWest 5569, a Fairchild Metroliner bound for Palmdale, California. Emergency personnel find parts of the smaller plane strewn across runway 24 left. There were 12 people on board the flight. None have survived. What's left of their plane is crushed between USAir 1493 and an abandoned building near the runway.
My first thought was, oh my God, there was someone else under there, and we didn't even realize it.
There's even more loss of life on board the larger plane. 20 are dead, 2 others are mortally wounded. First Officer Kelly has survived, but Captain Shaw has not. The disaster thrusts LAX into the media spotlight.
America's runways, according to the nation's pilots, the most dangerous part of the flight.
In the months and years leading up to the crash, increasing traffic was becoming a safety concern at Los Angeles International Airport.
The most close calls, Los Angeles International Airport. 33 near collisions over the last 4 years. That's 1 every month and a half.
The accident confirms safety issues need to be addressed. The National Transportation Safety Board sends its GO team to LAX to investigate.
It was kind of a horrific scene. The front end of the airplane was impaled on the captain's side against the building. And with close inspection, we could see parts of another aircraft underneath.
Investigators can see that the 2 planes collided at an intersection on runway 24 left.
The scenario of the accident resulted in 2 planes being on the runway at the same time. The runway was occupied. And that's something that should never happen when a landing clearance is granted.
Reducing collisions on U.S. runways is a priority for investigators from the NTSB.
We had runway incursions on the most wanted list from 1990 here at the Safety Board, and it's a major concern for the whole industry. A runway incursion is simply when an inappropriate object is out on a runway that's going to be used for a takeoff or landing.
Some of the world's worst airline disasters have taken place on runways. In March 1977, on the island of Tenerife, 583 people died when two Boeing 747s collided on the runway. In January 1990, a Beechcraft King Air 100 was struck by a Boeing 727 attempting to land in Atlanta. Later that year in Detroit, another Boeing 727 smashed straight into a DC-9 carrying 44 people.
Runway incursions occur due to some failure in the existing system. Something has happened. Some directive has not been followed. Some inattention is present in the scenario of a runway incursion.
Which one of these planes was cleared for 24 left?
Investigators need to find out why there were two planes on runway 24 left at the same time.
One of the principal objectives was to immediately see if we could find out what error had taken place that would allow that situation to occur.
Part of that answer may lie in the wreckage. But 24 hours after the crash, the investigation is at a near standstill. There's too much fuel on board the 737. Crawling through the wreckage would be dangerous.
The aircraft had about 6,000 pounds, maybe 1,000 gallons of fuel on board.
How long is this going to take?
The Saturday was spent defueling the aircraft, and that's a very slow process. That took almost all day before the fire department could declare that the scene was safe.
With airplane parts littering the airport, LAX is running at half capacity. 2 of the 4 runways are shut down. That's causing chaos for travelers. When the NTSB team finally gets access to the wreckage, they're under enormous pressure to act quickly. They must gather all the information they need so the airport can be fully reopened. Their investigation has a dual purpose. They must figure out what caused the collision. They also want to know why so many passengers got trapped and died in the burning aircraft.
We're not sure what went on. We don't have a recording of it, but there were some altercations with people trying to get ahead of other people.
Making matters worse, one of the emergency exit doors is inside the plane, partially blocking the exit.
If you follow the instructions on the card, the exit card, it will tell you to throw that exit out. This did not take place, so the right over-the-wing exit was, I would say, partially obstructed by that large hatch.
The NTSB concludes that a reduced number of exit doors made it impossible for many of the passengers to escape. With no way out, they were overcome by toxic smoke as it filled the cabin. While some investigators analyze wreckage at the crash site, others focus on air traffic control.
Well, first and foremost, we look at the communications, then we also look at the procedures within the facility and how those are applied, and were they indeed followed.
To learn more, the NTSB collects the audio tapes of the controller's communications with the planes. Investigators wonder what instructions were given to the pilots in the moments leading up to the crash. They also want to know what the flight crews were saying during those crucial seconds. Did the pilots follow their instructions? The The cockpit voice recorders should provide investigators with the answer. But then Bob McIntosh gets some bad news about the SkyWest Metroliner.
No voice recorder. Great.
We recognized, looking at the onboard equipment, that SkyWest 569 did not have a CVR flight recorder installed. And that was disappointing to us.
At the time of the crash, commuter planes were not required to carry cockpit voice recorders. This means the only SkyWest conversations caught on tape are radio communications recorded in the control tower.
Okay, 24 left, position and hold, SkyWest 569.
The two cockpit crew members would have exchanged words, would have been listening to the air traffic information that was coming into their cockpit all the time, and we recognized that that was a valuable piece of data that we lost.
Using the air traffic control tapes and just one CVR, investigators try to find out which of the two aircraft in the collision was actually cleared to use runway 24 left. The answer will raise alarming questions about the safety of all passengers flying to and from LAX.
246, are you still holding short of 47?
The investigation into the deadly collision on runway 24 left focuses on Robin Washer's conversations with the two planes involved. Investigators begin with the smaller plane.
23, taxi into position and hold.
Minutes before the accident, the pilots of the Metroliner waited for permission to take off.
SkyWest 569, taxi into position and hold runway 24 left. Traffic will be crossing downfield.
We use the tapes to try to visualize, like a local controller would, where the aircraft would be on the runway.
The pilots of the SkyWest Metroliner turned their plane onto the runway and stopped at intersection 45. They had to wait for another plane to cross the runway downfield.
Okay, 24 left, position and hold, SkyWest 569.
Okay. Stop her right there.
From the air traffic control tapes, the NTSB can tell that the pilots of the Metroliner followed all their instructions correctly.
All right, let's keep going.
Responsibility for the accident must lie elsewhere. Investigators probe the tapes further. They look at Washer's communications with the USAir pilots.
USAir 1493 for the left side, 24 left.
Thank you, USAir 1493. You're cleared to land 24 left.
A USAir 1493 was cleared to land on the same runway during the time that SkyWest 569 was still sitting in position on that same runway.
Cleared to land, 24 left, 1493.
SkyWest 569, right at intersection 45.
How long's it been there?
1 minute, 7 seconds.
The air traffic control tapes reveal that Robin Washer instructed both the SkyWest Metroliner and the USAir Flight to use runway 24 left at the same time.
Left, contact ground, 0.65 when you are.
What the hell?
When we're examining the recorded voice communications, what we try to do is to put ourselves in the position of the controller. What would she have seen? What would she have heard? What would she have done?
Investigators need to know what Robin Washer was doing at the time of the crash. They look at the other flights that she had under her control.
Wings West 5006, taxi across runway 24 left.
They learn that in the moments before the collision, Washer began to lose track of some of those flights.
Is that for Philippine 102?
No, sir, hold short. Wings West 5006, taxi across runway 24 left.
Wings West 5006 was an aircraft that was on the north side of runway 24 left who wanted to cross to the south side.
Wings West 5006, ground tower.
And when she was ready to cross the aircraft, the crew did not respond.
Washer spent nearly a full minute of her time trying to re-establish radio contact with the flight crossing the runway.
Can I hear the rest of that exchange?
Wings West 5006, on frequency again. Change radio. Sorry about that.
They advised her they had inadvertently been on another frequency.
5006, you're back with me.
Yeah, we didn't mean to switch radios. We're on now.
And that created a distraction for the local controller.
Okay, I thought I lost you.
Sorry, we thought we lost you. We apologize.
Not a problem.
But investigators discover that that flight wasn't the only aircraft Robin Washer was fixated on in the moments before the crash.
Tower Wings West 5072 is ready for takeoff.
Wings West 5072?
With USAir 1493 less than a minute from touchdown, Washer hears from another Wings West aircraft, Flight 5072.
When Wings West 5072 called to say that he was ready for departure, it was obvious to us that she didn't understand who this aircraft was.
Wings West 5072, are you at 47 or full length?
We're at full length.
Okay, hold short.
Roger, holding short.
Investigators need to hear from Washer herself.
I couldn't find the flight progress strip.
They hope to learn why she didn't recognize a flight that was under her control.
I couldn't find the strip, so I asked my supervisor to help me. Francina? I need a strip for Wings West 5072.
She explains that as the pilots of the Metroliner waited on the runway for permission to take off, she was searching for another flight's progress strip. Before she could get back on track, USAir Flight 1493 crashed into the back of the Metroliner.
What the hell?
NTSB investigators now know that human error played a major role in the collision at LAX. Remarkably, when she cleared the USAir flight to land, Robin Washer simply forgot about the Metroliner waiting on the runway.
This situation that occurred is a situation that no controller wants to go through. You train your whole career for this not to happen. And when it does happen, it's, you can't even describe the feelings that you go through. A situation like this could potentially happen to anybody. We are all human.
After the accident, Washer left her job at LAX and never worked as an air traffic controller again. But investigators believe there are likely more causes to this accident than one person's fatal error.
Anytime that you do an investigation, it's easy to point the blame at one individual. What you want to do is to say, why did this occur, and what can we do to prevent a reoccurrence?
Answers to those questions begin to emerge as the NTSB examines the daily routine in the control tower in the weeks before the accident.
It was one of those, you don't know you have a problem until you have a problem.
It turns out another disaster was narrowly averted 7 months before the collision. A landing DC-10 flew just over an Airbus waiting on the runway to take off at LAX.
Los Angeles Airport has always been known as one of the #1 runway incursion airports in the system, and changes were overdue.
Controllers at LAX produced documentation showing that immediately after that close call, they alerted officials that the control tower was understaffed. They also explained that regions around the northern runways were invisible to controllers because their view was blocked by a light tower.
We went up in the tower, climbed the stairs, and asked the air traffic controllers to step aside while we sat in their chairs and looked out the window. The view that the air traffic controller was presented with had an obstruction, a light pole that produced a glare, and it was a light that lit up the airport ramp.
Robin Washer may not have been able to see the SkyWest Metroliner as it sat out on the runway. NTSB investigators look at other tools she could have used to detect the forgotten plane.
The surface radar is generally used during periods of low visibility. It is a tool by which the local controller, should they so choose, be able to visually confirm on that scope that an aircraft is indeed where it says it is.
Ground radar displays all aircraft and ground vehicles moving around the airport. But on the night of the accident, that system wasn't working.
You're holding short, is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am, we're holding short.
It was in constant out of service, in service, out of service, in service, and gave the management a lot of trouble.
The system was not very reliable, and we did lodge complaints to have it fixed and to upgrade the system as soon as we could.
Investigators learned that just 4 days before the accident, officials at LAX had formally asked the FAA to treat the failing ground radar with the highest priority.
The radar drive and some of the drive mechanism had some ring gears and spur gears that they had to go to machine shops and literally make that part because it would wear out on a regular basis trying to rotate the antenna.
We looked into this particular problem and learned that Los Angeles had been slated to receive a new system in 1988. However, that date had slipped, and at that time, they were not sure when they were going to get a new radar system.
With the ground radar system out of commission, and with her view of the runway impeded by blinding lights, Robin Washer's chances of discovering her error were slim. Investigators turned their attention to the cockpit of the USAir Flight. They wonder why the pilots didn't see the Metroliner out on the runway and abort their landing.
Well, most of us in the pilot community would recognize that it's our job to scan that runway and find aircraft that might be out there or anything else prior to landing.
Like all planes, the Metroliner is equipped with lights to make it more visible at night. There are strobe lights on the wingtips and the tail, navigation lights on the wings, and a colored anti-collision beacon on top of the vertical stabilizer.
We were concerned about the SkyWest lighting and had to look at the flight operations manual, and we found that the operating procedure for that company was to turn on the strobe lights only after clearance for takeoff.
So no other lights were required? Okay, thank you.
The Metroliner wasn't yet cleared for takeoff. So the only lights that would have been lit while it waited on the runway were the navigation lights on the wings and tail, and the anti-collision beacon on the tail. NTSB investigators then use a helicopter to put themselves in the position of the USAir pilots as they were making the approach to runway 24 left.
We went up and we actually flew that final approach in order to verify what we thought might be the condition of obscuration.
They positioned a Metroliner on the runway in the same spot where the collision occurred.
And sure enough, we could not see that aircraft parked out there at spot 45 and 47. You just couldn't see it.
Looks real good.
The investigation determines the lights on the Metroliner were the same color and brightness as the runway lights. The plane may have been all but invisible to the pilots of USAir 1493.
You're coming out of 500.
The anti-collision beacon in particular would have been lost in a sea of lights. When the National Transportation Safety Board releases its report, controller error is determined to be a cause of the runway collision.
We're in the business of determining why something happened. You may call it a cause or causes or contributing factors, but our job ends when the next accident is prevented.
Preventing accidents on the runways of LAX would prove to be a much greater challenge than investigators could imagine. The collision between USAir Flight 1493 and a SkyWest Metroliner alarms the public. The accident seems to prove that controllers cannot safely handle the increasing traffic at Los Angeles International Airport. The NTSB investigation points to Robin Washer's failure to maintain awareness of the flights under her control as one cause of the accident. But the report also points to a failing system in the air traffic control facilities at LAX. In the months and years following the accident, improvements are made to air traffic facilities in an attempt to make the airport a safer place. The failing ground radar system is finally replaced with a newer model.
Today at Los Angeles Tower, we have the newest system out there. Each arrival or departure they're taxiing on the taxiways or on the runways have a call sign and type aircraft associated with it, so you have positive identification of all aircraft at all times.
New policies governing the way flight progress strips are handled in the tower are put in place. Ground controllers now organize the strips before they make their way to the local controller. The extra set of eyes reduces the local controller's workload. 5 years after the crash, a new air traffic control tower is built at LAX. The tower is 16 stories higher, 3 times larger, and offers controllers clear, unobstructed sightlines. New regulations concerning aircraft lighting are also put in place. It becomes mandatory for pilots to turn on all their lights before they move out onto a runway. But despite the improvements, the rate of runway incursions at LAX only goes up.
Throughout the 90s and even into the 2000s, I would describe it as a common event. LAX certainly was one of the worst airports we had for a number of incursions.
10 years after the accident, more serious runway incursions were happening at LAX than at any other airport in the United States.
They had double-digit runway incursions and serious runway incursions almost every year. And in fact, in 2007, they actually had 21 runway incursions.
In an attempt to reduce the problem once and for all, the Federal Aviation Administration begins work on a new system of runway lights to keep planes apart on the ground.
Runway status light system is a series of runway entrance lighting that we put at taxiways or takeoff hold lighting that we actually put on the runway itself.
The system is fully automatic. It uses a series of red lights embedded in the runways and taxiways. The lights warn pilots if there is conflicting traffic.
The runway status lights illuminate red, tells a pilot that it is unsafe, or a vehicle driver, that it is unsafe to either cross or enter that runway. And it triggers because there is an aircraft landing or departing. There's some other traffic on the runway. The runway status light seems to be one of the most effective systems we have for preventing runway incursions, and certainly the serious runway incursions.
In April 2009, the technology was installed at Los Angeles International Airport. Prototypes of the system have also been installed at Dallas-Fort Worth and San Diego. By 2011, runway status lights will be a key feature at dozens of airports across the United States.
The equipment we're using at Los Angeles Tower today is much better than the equipment that we used back in 1991. It's been upgraded, it's much more reliable, and it gives the controllers the tools they need to make sure that the runways are clear and to keep the aircraft moving.
Though new technology can never guarantee 100% safety, the improvements at LAX have restored public confidence in the airport, even among those who survived Flight 1493.
I spent a couple of days in intensive care at a local hospital, and I had nightmares, by the way, following my release from the hospital for quite a number of days. But I'm doing fine now. I have no problem with getting on airplanes and flying, and I've got great confidence in the airline system.
Miami Beach, Florida. Sun, sand, and calm blue seas. But when a tourist points his camera towards the sky, he captures a scene of horror. A plane is falling to the sea.
We have a code 4. Repeat, code 4. The plane down in the water.
As soon as I saw this, I realized, I'm like, oh no, this is the Chalk's airplane crashing.
The downed plane is Chalk's Ocean Airways Flight 101, bound for the Bahamas.
Could it have been a collision with an object? Could it have been a fire? Could it have actually been a criminal act?
Let's notify the FBI.
The incredibly rare video may hold the answers.
Can you enhance that for me?
An airline renowned for safety has made a fatal error. But it will take investigators hundreds of hours to finally uncover it.
Bingo.
The Port of Miami, December the 19th, 2005. Giant freighters and ocean-going cruise ships are a common sight. But there's another, much smaller craft that's often seen in this port. Chalk's Ocean Airways flies seaplanes in and out of this busy waterway. Today, Flight 101 from Fort Lauderdale is making a brief stopover here on its way to the Bahamas.
Feather propellers.
Check.
Shut down engine number 1.
Shutting down engine number 1.
Chalk's flies to 2 regular destinations, both in the Bahamas. Bimini, where Flight 101 is scheduled to land this afternoon, and Paradise Island.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
We're just making a short stopover here in Miami to pick up a couple passengers. We apologize for the delay. We'll be on our way again soon.
How many are we picking up?
Just 2, but they're VIPs.
For a small community like Bimini, Chalk's seaplanes are a lifeline.
And it's just so much easier in the seaplane to get to the North Island where most of the population is than going to the airport down there. So that was the main thing. It was a convenience factor.
Welcome aboard. I see your boarding passes.
Certainly.
Sergio D'Angelicourt is a Bacardi rum executive. He's the great-great-grandson of the company's founder. The family is well known in the local Cuban community for their anti-Castro politics. He and his wife are flying to the Bahamas to buy a yacht.
Passengers settled in?
We're all set.
Good afternoon, folks.
We'd like to welcome you aboard Chalk's Ocean Airways Flight 101 to Bimini. Our travel time to Bimini will be 25 minutes.
Hope you enjoy the flight. Let's have the startup checklist, please.
Roger.
Michelle Marks is in command of today's flight. She was promoted to captain earlier this year.
Fuel conditioners.
First Officer Paul DeSanctis joined the airline 8 months ago.
Starter on.
Starter on.
This is his first flight with Captain Marks.
All clear to taxi?
All clear.
The Grumman Mallard is a twin turboprop design. It has a V-shaped hull and underwing pontoons. It's designed to carry up to 17 passengers. The plane has retractable landing gear, so it can operate on either land or sea.
Gear coming up.
Takeoff in the Mallard, depending on the days, it could be a lot of fun or it could be a real challenge.
Weight and balance check. We're good.
The Miami seaplane base has no control tower. The crew has to keep a lookout for boat traffic as they taxi through one of the busiest ports in the world.
Taking off out of Miami in the shipping channel, it's kind of like trying to take off during rush hour traffic. You've got boat traffic, wave traffic, the wind, the airplane to deal with, and everybody's going different speeds, and you're trying to get up and go and navigate around everybody, so it was always a handful.
Flight 101 will take off from X-44, a seaplane base near a channel known as Government Cut.
Prepare for takeoff.
Roger. Ready to take off.
Both pilots have their hand on the throttles. It's to prevent the captain from inadvertently pulling back if the plane hits a wave.
45 knots. 50 knots.
This is the moment most passengers are paying for, the takeoff. Half speedboat, half plane. It's a unique thrill.
75 knots. 80 knots.
For the pilots, accelerating through the waves is often the most difficult part of the flight.
The airplane itself was really hard to fly as far as on the water, getting onto the step, which was what we call getting on plane. And in rough sea conditions and in rough wave conditions, it could be a real challenge.
But this takeoff goes smoothly. Flight 101 is no longer a boat, it's now a plane en route to Bimini. It's 2:38 in the afternoon. The plane's flight path takes it past South Beach, where sunbathers and surfers are out in force. Just less than a minute into the flight, the Grumman Mallard is climbing through 500 feet, well below the clouds. Then, plane rolls violently and dives. The pilots barely have time to register what's happening. Their struggles are in vain. By chance, a tourist from New York catches Flight 101's final moments on his camera. 60 seconds after takeoff, the plane slams into the ocean. Lucas Bocanegra is a lifeguard stationed on South Beach near the Chalks Ocean Airways sea lane.
As soon as I saw this, I realized, I'm like, oh no, this is the Chalks airplane crashing.
We have a code 4. Repeat, code 4. The plane down in the water.
This is Lucas. We're launching the jet ski.
The two lifeguards are the first rescuers to go looking for the plane.
We drove as fast as we could to the scene of the accident. There was a lot of things coming through my head. I was nervous, scared. I was kind of full of adrenaline. We wanted to go in and try to rescue as many people as we could, but at the same time, we've never trained for a situation like this. As soon as we turned government cut, those jetty rocks, we noticed that it was very calm, very quiet. It wasn't like the ocean side where it was very rough. There was no waves. It was very, kind of very eerie.
At first, Lucas Bocanegra finds no sign of Flight 101 or any of the passengers.
Little by little, we started seeing debris float up onto the surface of the water. And we saw some chairs, some luggage here and there, and suddenly we noticed it was a body in the water. As soon as we put the body on our jet ski, we realized that from his injuries that there was nothing we could do. From there, it was just try to recover as many bodies, you know, bring them back for their families.
News crews swarm the beach.
Chalks Flight 101 plummeted into the channel in full view of tourists lining Miami Beach.
Even a fraction of a second, the whole plane was engulfed in flames.
Black smoke and then an explosion. Pure fire in the sky.
It was so surreal, we couldn't believe that we actually witnessed that.
Chopper 4 over the wreckage as Miami Beach Coast Guard look for any survivors.
But the effort is futile.
We retrieved some of the bodies, but we were unable to find anyone that had survived.
All 20 people on board are dead, including pilots Paul DeSanctis and Michelle Marks. The residents of Bimini are devastated by the horrific news.
I was very sad for the crew and the friends that I had lost on the airplane. You never expect an accident to actually happen. And to see that on television like I did, it was very, very sad.
In Washington, senior NTSB investigator Bill English is put on the case.
I was just in my office doing some routine paperwork for something else, and the director stuck his head around the corner and said, "Oh, there's been an accident." And I said, "Well, what is it?" And he mentioned a Grumman Mallard. So I immediately knew it had to be Chalks.
Within hours, investigators are at the crash site, where 19 bodies have been recovered. One is still missing.
I was very familiar with Chalks Airways. I'm a seaplane-rated pilot myself, and there is the reputation, the legend of Chalks Airways, the oldest continuously operating airline.
Chalks has a long and rich history. The airline was founded in 1917. During the Prohibition era, passenger lists included notorious rum runners and later Hollywood movie stars. Chalk's planes even patrolled for German U-boats during World War II.
The novelty of flying at Chalk's, it was just all that history, all the people that have gone, and it was really a great place to work for that.
The Grumman Mallard flying boat that crashed was built in 1947. Chalk's Ocean Airways is the only airline that uses mallards to transport passengers.
They're not really a mainstream type of airplane, and so there's always that nostalgia about them.
Salvage crews find the plane's black box. Investigators send it to the NTSB in Washington. The box promises to reveal critical information about what the pilots were doing in the seconds leading up to the tragic mid-air disaster.
In any investigation, the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder are a great desire. More data, the better. We can always learn something.
But Bill English knows he isn't going to get all the data he wants.
Okay, thanks.
The only recorder on board the Mallard was a cockpit voice recorder, or CVR.
Most airline aircraft have two flight recorders. The flight data recorder, depending on the aircraft, will record all sorts of parameters of the flight: altitude, airspeed, control positions, and so on. The Chalk's airplane was not equipped with a flight data recorder. It did have a cockpit voice recorder.
Though the lack of flight data is a big disappointment, media coverage of the crash gives investigators a very rare piece of evidence.
Authorities revealed that the final seconds of Flight 101 were captured on amateur video. The dramatic footage was shot by a tourist on South Beach.
Let's get a copy of that video. Okay, let's see it.
The video only captured the final seconds of the plane crash, but it confirms eyewitness reports that a wing ripped off in midair.
Can you enhance that for me?
The video showed the wing just after separation from the aircraft, the main part of the aircraft fuselage rolling off in the other direction, and the fire and smoke starting from that.
It was quite startling that the wing would fall off in this plane. It was a beautiful day. The water wasn't rough on the takeoff, and all of a sudden this wing just dropped off. It must have been absolutely devastating.
However, the video can't reveal why the wing came off. Answers to that question may lie at the crash site, where salvage crews are finishing their recovery of the wreckage of Flight 101. The right wing is found separate from the plane, but largely intact.
Wings falling off aircraft, modern day situations, is a very rare, extreme event, and there's only been a few cases of them in the past 20 or 30 years.
In Washington, another type of examination is already underway. At the NTSB lab, technicians are busy analyzing the Mallard's cockpit voice recorder tape.
The cockpit voice recorder, or CVR, which does what it sounds like, records the pilots' voices talking to each other or on the microphones.
But the tape is a jumble of voices and sounds. Technicians can't retrieve any useful information.
It turned out that the erase head function, it's just like a tape recorder that most people are familiar with. It didn't erase the old stuff, so every subsequent flight kept getting recorded over and over and over again and just became a muddled sound, and it wasn't audible to us or useful.
It's another setback.
124.5, 2160.
thanks.
Okay, let's revisit this again because we're running out of options here.
Investigators have fewer and fewer tools to work with. Bill English considers the possibility that Flight 101 hit turbulence so violent that it tore the plane apart. But the weather on the day of the crash doesn't support that theory. There were no storms that could have caused such severe turbulence. Clearly, something else had torn this plane apart. There's a possibility the Mallard collided with something in the water before takeoff.
Seaplanes don't take off of a conventional runway. They're in water where there can be things like logs or other debris, which could potentially cause structural issues with an aircraft.
But before they can reach a conclusion on that theory, investigators consider some other intriguing evidence. It's an urgent advisory issued by the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA. It warns that due to a faulty part, the propellers on the Mallard could come off during flight.
You're kidding me.
Something such as a blade separation, losing part of the propeller, could cause a great structural load on the aircraft.
English now has a solid lead, but his team is still missing the evidence they need to prove their case.
The entire island is devastated by the loss of life as investigators searching for answers wait for more wreckage to be pulled from the sea.
In the aftermath of the crash, Chalk's Ocean Airways grounds its remaining fleet of 4 Grumman Mallards. At the NTSB's Miami command post, they're working to identify various plane fragments and other debris from the crash.
We started out with the wing itself that separated the spar, which is the main part of the structure of the wing, and any of the other fracture surfaces, looking for obvious initiation factors.
They carefully examine the propellers, looking for evidence that might confirm suspicions raised by the FAA advisory. But it's another dead end.
We're able to determine all the blades were attached, and the bending that we saw was the expected pattern from proper operation when those blades hit the water.
Once again, they're back to square one.
This is what I want you to look at.
Investigators focus their attention on the fractured wing. They've noticed sooting on parts of it. It's evidence of a very rapid fire.
We want to find anything that could be the initiating factor for the wing separation. Could it have been a collision with an object? Could it have been a fire? Could it have actually been a criminal act?
The burn marks raise a sinister possibility. An explosion. A bomb. This now falls outside the NTSB's area of expertise and authority.
Let's notify the FBI.
The FBI helps us in many of our investigations, and we will utilize some of their experts to rule out terrorism or a criminal act.
If it was a bomb that brought down Flight 101, a likely target would have been one of the 18 passengers.
Thanks for coming in. We're going to need your help on this.
One name stands out on the passenger manifest: Sergio D'Angelicourt.
Welcome aboard. Can I see your boarding passes?
Certainly.
There are rumors on the internet that the crash was an assassination plot and D'Angelicourt was the target. His family made a fortune in pre-Castro Cuba. They were so opposed to Fidel Castro's regime that they had allegedly supported clandestine attempts to overthrow his communist government.
This is your copy. All right. Now, there's something I want to show you. We can't tell if it's just soot or it's explosive residue.
A bomb will leave chemical traces and distinctive patterns in the torn metal. FBI technicians are specially trained to detect them. The samples from the wreckage will be tested at FBI labs in Quantico, Virginia. Four days after the accident, salvage crews are still bringing in wing fragments found at the crash site.
So we need everything that looks like it come from the right wing. Can we get some light over here? Overstress.
Most of the damage they see is from overstress fractures, areas where the metal was literally ripped apart when the wing tore off.
Come here. That's the sink.
When metal is suddenly stressed to the point of breaking, the fracture leaves a very distinctive rough edge. It's easy to distinguish it from fractures that have developed slowly over time.
Cut this from here to here and get it to Clinton, Washington.
As we started to examine the right wing, spar and other components on scene at the Coast Guard station or the seaplane base, this was a visual examination there. We didn't have the sophisticated lab tools that we have at headquarters.
They identify parts to be shipped to the lab in Washington, where they hope closer inspection will reveal exactly what went wrong with the wing.
Hey, Clint. Clint, we're sending you as much of the wing as we have your way. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I'm still waiting for that report.
The results from the FBI explosives test come in.
Is that... Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
A mid-air bombing assassination could explain everything. But there is no explosive residue on the wreckage.
Okay, so that rules that out.
Structural failure is now the chief suspect in the downing of Chalk's Flight 101.
Well, that's all that's left. That's tomorrow.
It was obvious the airplane had a catastrophic structural failure. So we needed to find out the cause, the initiating factor of that structural failure.
He needs to know more about the long history of this particular Grumman Mallard.
It's very typical in any accident investigation. We want to look at the maintenance history of an aircraft. For an aircraft that's 60 years old, that's even more so important.
It takes days to comb through the 28 boxes of old records.
We want to make sure that we can develop an entire history of this aircraft, what sort of chronic problems may have shown up in the maintenance of the aircraft, and what types of work had been done on any of the factors that looked likely to be involved.
Clint Cruikshanks is a structures investigator for the NTSB.
When we go into an investigation, we try to go in with a very open mind and look at the wreckage and let it tell the story for what happened. We wanted to look at every piece that broke on the right wing to determine if this was a age-related failure or if it was something that was caused by a structural overload.
As with most aircraft, the Mallard's wings are built from aluminium alloy. The spars run the length of each wing. In between the spars are stringers that give added support. Together, these parts make up the wing box, which also doubles as a fuel tank.
And then the skin is over top of all of that structure to kind of give a smooth aerodynamic look to the wing. All of these together work to carry the flight loads that the wing is designed to carry. Once you compromise one piece of that structure, the ability to carry the normal flight loads has been compromised.
Thanks.
Over the years, the wing box had been repaired many times. Chalk's mechanics had patched up areas damaged by corrosion, which is not unusual for an aging aircraft, especially a seaplane.
The fact that they land on water means that their takeoff and landing loads are different than you would have on a land-based airplane. Also, they're always in water, and the corrosive effects of water are going to happen more readily on those airplanes.
But when investigators examine the rest of the Chalk's fleet, they find that the Mallards are in far worse shape than they imagined.
Corrosion repairs. Corrosion. 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 Corrosion repairs. Lots of them.
The accident airplane and the other airplanes in Chalk's fleet were rife with maintenance issues. Corrosion was rampant on all the airplanes. There was evidence of shoddy maintenance practices on all of their other airplanes.
Many of the repairs exhibited extremely poor workmanship in quality, double, triple drilling of holes, excessive grinding of corrosion, scars on the material. And this involved the structural repairs that were made to the aircraft over the past few years.
Cruikshank's attention is drawn to a section of the lower right wing. There is a metal patch called a doubler on the surface of the wing's skin.
A doubler is simply a sheet of metal that goes over top of the skin, and it acts as a load transfer. It acts as a second piece of skin to patch the crack. It's kind of like the patch on a pair of jeans.
This is a big repair job. You sure we don't have anything on this?
It's an intriguing discovery. The patch is located exactly where the wing broke off from the rest of the plane. When he takes a closer look at this section of the wing, Cruikshanks notices the edges are smooth and shiny, totally unlike the rough edges he's been seeing on other debris.
We gotta see what's under this.
This crack is not from overstress. Instead, Cruikshanks suspects it developed over many years as the result of metal fatigue.
Metal fatigue is a process by which any piece of metal, a wing spar or anything, is repetitively loaded and unloaded. You can think of it as bending a paper clip back and forth, and everyone's done this, and after a while, it eventually breaks.
Metal fatigue in the wings is caused by the stress of flight over the lifetime of the aircraft.
In the case of this aircraft, every time it took off, the wing is loaded. That's lift that gets the airplane up into the air. Every time it lands, the wing is now unloaded, and there's no more stress on the wing structure anymore. That's just like bending that paperclip back and forth.
Cruikshanks is eager to find out what's underneath the metal patch.
Okay, let's see what this doubler's hiding.
They find even more metal fatigue. Deep cracks cut across the wing. The extent of the damage is staggering. A crack 40 centimeters long.
Man, oh man.
Investigating further, Cruikshanks makes another disturbing find.
3 machined holes in the skin forward of the leading edge. All 3 appear to be stop drill holes.
The holes indicate that Chalk's mechanics had been trying to stop the crack from spreading further. Years earlier, a mechanic had spotted the crack on the lower surface of the wing. He repaired it by drilling a hole in the path of the crack. It's called a stop drill hole.
The end of a crack, you can see even with the naked eye, is sharp. It comes to a point. That tends to want to develop a crack more. By drilling a hole at the end of the crack, that would spread out the stress, and the idea is to stop the growth of the crack there.
But the stop drill holes didn't work.
An attempt was made to repair that skin on 3 different occasions by stop drilling.
Even as mechanics put in more holes, the crack kept growing.
After the 3rd stop drill, an attempt was made to further repair the wing by attaching doublers on the interior and exterior surface of the skin.
But the doublers didn't work either. The crack on the plane's skin continued to grow. Investigators now know the right wing was damaged long before the day of the accident. What they don't understand is why the crack could not be stopped.
Approved.
But a glimmer of an answer comes when they learn the plane was sending out warning signs of a deeper, more serious problem.
The Chalks airplane involved in the accident were showing evidence of chronic fuel leaks for a long period of time, for many years.
According to the log, fuel leaks from the right wing were repaired again and again, but they kept happening.
The crews started to notice repeated fuel leaks during standard operations, and we tried to bring it up to the attention of management just for our concerns.
Just 2 days before the crash, it happened again. While doing routine maintenance on the Mallard, a mechanic came across fuel dripping from the right wing.
They always addressed the problem with trying to reseal the fuel tanks or trying to fix whatever problem they thought they had. It always seemed to be a reoccurring issue.
The procedure for plugging a leak was to apply a chemical sealant to the inside of the empty fuel tank. The sealant would take a day to dry. Then the plane could be refueled and returned to service. The leaks should have been a clue that the crack in the wing skin was just the tip of the iceberg, that there was a much more dangerous problem with the wing's interior structure.
Fuel leaks in this particular aircraft are indicative of a problem with the wing structure. In fact, Grumman put out a service bulletin back in 1963 that warned mechanics chronic fuel leaks are an indicator of a structural issue with the aircraft.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
Crookshanks examines the pieces that make up the right fuel tank.
Some kind of sealant.
He wonders why the fuel leaks persisted in spite of the constant efforts to repair them.
Hand me that scraper, please. Thank you.
Beneath the layers of sealant, he finds his answer.
Bingo.
Cracks in a critical support beam called a Z-stringer. It's the piece that the plane's skin was directly attached to.
All right, will you finish cleaning this off and then get some pictures, okay? Thank you.
Crookshanks finds evidence that Chalk's mechanics had tried to repair the stringer.
It appears that they did some grinding on the Z-stringer to remove a fatigue crack. However, they never went back in and re-inspected that area.
Instead, they only applied chemical sealant to the area to make it leak-proof, and in the process concealed the damage.
Chalks made repeated attempts to repair the airplane by stop drilling the wing skin cracks, adding doublers over top of the cracks. But they never addressed the root of the problem, which is the cracked Z-stringer. The reason they couldn't address the Z-stringer is it was covered in fuel tank sealant.
The broken Z-stringer weakened the entire wing. Now, with every takeoff and landing, the plane's skin was absorbing the forces. Over time, the skin began to crack as well. The final outcome was inevitable.
The fatigue cracking reached critical length and the wing separated from the airplane.
Investigators conclude that a hidden crack in a key component of the right wing led to the devastating crash of Flight 101. Chalk's failure to identify such a serious problem now forces investigators to re-examine the airline's long history. Chalk's Ocean Airways had an image as one of the safest airlines in the world. Despite the age of their fleet, the airline had an outstanding record of safety dating back almost 90 years.
Chalk's safety record was great. They had never lost a passenger in all the years of operation.
Chalk was an old, established company, but it seems to me that somewhere along the line, the management and the quality of the work done had slipped quite a bit from in the past years.
What have you got on the financial state of this company?
Investigators are beginning to suspect that the company's reputation for safety may have been undermined in recent years by money problems.
Financial issues in an airline, especially a small carrier like this, can manifest themselves in many ways. Personnel are sometimes one of the first things to go.
A search of Chalk's financial history uncovers some trouble. In the 1980s, Chalk's went through a string of owners before going bankrupt in 1999. The airline was revived by a Miami businessman, but it kept losing money. Just a few months before the crash, the last attempt to sell the business fell through.
Not doing so well.
It wasn't a secret that we were having financial difficulty. The pilots had taken pay cuts and the captains had taken concessions, and we downsized a lot as far as personnel.
It wasn't just personnel that felt the pinch.
It was difficult for Chalk's to find spare parts and to do some of their repairs. Chalk's had a number of other unflyable aircraft that they owned that they would cannibalize for spare parts.
There were maybe only 50 or 55 aircraft ever built. In that case, the original manufacturer, Grumman, was no longer in production of that aircraft. They no longer supplied parts.
The airline's deteriorating health and the shortage of spare parts had a direct impact on safety.
There's so much regulation and there's so much just necessity to make the airplane fly. It's hard to skimp on maintenance and not impact reliability. And if you don't have reliability, then you're just spiraling downhill.
But no matter how tight the finances were, as a commercial airline, Chalk's should have been closely monitored by the Federal Aviation Administration. In fact, the FAA did assign an inspector to work closely with Chalk's.
The FAA inspector, which is called a principal maintenance inspector, was responsible for the oversight of the maintenance program as carried out by Chalk.
The inspector was aware the plane was suffering from chronic fuel leaks. And yet, inexplicably, he gave Chalk's a clean bill of health just 2 months before the crash.
What is this guy doing?
Investigators are at a loss to explain why the FAA inspector didn't pick up on warning signs the Chalk seaplane was giving off.
The fact that Chalk was an old established carrier, maybe they just accepted, well, there's only 2 or 3 planes, it's a small operation, they only fly during the nice weathers, and they're good old boys over there, they know what they're doing.
In effect, the FAA didn't step back and take a look at that forest for the trees and find out just what's going on in the maintenance program with these Chalk's aircraft.
The FAA may not have found fault with chalks, but it turns out that several people very close to the airline did.
But we did talk to this group of pilots who had left chalks prior to the accident, and every single one of them did have some story about maintenance aspects on their aircraft, whether it had to do with fuel leaks or other maintenance aspects. They all had some level of concern about the way chalks was taking care of these very old airplanes.
In fact, the pilots were so concerned that in the year leading up to the crash, many of them met to discuss the problem of declining maintenance.
The captains of the company decided that it would be best for us to get together as a group, discuss the issues that we had to try to get our concerns addressed. One major issue that had happened, we had an elevator cable that had snapped in flight, and the crew luckily was able to get the airplane down using power and different settings and shifting people. But in most scenarios, that would have been an accident in itself. In aviation, there's error chains that they talk about, and you have to just, if you keep compiling one link after another, it's only a matter of time before an accident will occur. And from my point of view, I thought that if they kept going down the same road that they were going down, something could happen.
Eventually, Captain Weber decided he'd seen enough close calls.
My turning point and why I decided to leave chalks was I just had seen too many things in the recent months, too many mechanical issues that were major issues in my mind, and I had 300 failures myself that year, and I had a wife at home that was pregnant. I had lost, I guess, my confidence in the company's ability or the airplane, and I just had had enough.
The NTSB's report on the crash of Flight 101 harshly criticizes the FAA for not detecting growing maintenance and financial problems at chalks.
Had the maintenance program or the FAA stepped back and said, these aircraft need more than just a one-time fix. They need something much deeper than this. The accident probably would not have happened.
It also uncovers a loophole in the FAA's aging aircraft regulations, which require extra inspections for older planes. But those rules didn't apply to Mallards.
The Grumman Mallard was manufactured in 1947. It only carried 17 passengers, and it was not a transport category airplane. Therefore, it was exempt from these supplemental inspections. What we have here is the FAA has made an aging airplane safety rule, and they've exempted the oldest airplanes in the fleet.
The NTSB recommends that the FAA expand its oversight of aging planes.
When we determine the probable cause of an aircraft, the point is to do this so that similar accidents won't happen again in the future. I think we've used this accident to point towards the industry and the FAA to make sure that they take a look at the overall picture of what's going on at an air carrier.
Flight 101 spelled the end of Chalk's Ocean Airways. A few months after the report was released, the airline shut down.
There was a lot of history and a lot of family community involved with the passengers as well as the people in the airline. So to see the whole airline and everything else kind of go down with the airplane is additionally, emotional for everybody that ever worked there or ever loved the airplanes.